And welcome once again, our attendees. I can see we have friends from Intelligent Engineering, Uranus, and I've forgotten the name of the next one. So welcome, guys. During the course of the presentation, if you have any question, please don't hesitate to type in your question on the chat box. From time to time, Leo is going to interrupt me to announce your question so that we can take them. Otherwise, you can also wait towards the end of the presentation. Thank you. So today we are speaking about ePMP 3000. And Leo, please confirm that you are able to see my screen.
Yes, Livingstone, everything is fine. And I met you as presenter, so go on with that.
All right. So Unit has already done a very good introduction there. I'm going to dwell on how ePMP 3000 has evolved. So to start with, to talk about the ePMP evolution, ePMP as a product is our cost-effective or cost-affordable point-to-multipoint solution. We have two point-to-multipoint solution. ePMP is the cost-affordable one, and we also have the carrier-grade one, which we call the PMP 450. So today we are talking about ePMP, and we introduced ePMP with the ePMP 1000. And I want to believe that we understand the standards of IEEE. So IEEE has a family of standards like the IEEE 802.11 family of standards. So ePMP was the 11N standard. So ePMP was introduced in order to solve self-interference and also to give you broadband, a better performance for your broadband network on your WISP. Okay. So, and how did we do that? We did that by using our GPS synchronized solution. So when ePMP 1000 was introduced, we were able to deploy this product in networks where they reuse frequency without having impact on their network, a negative impact. So fast forward, we also introduced the ePMP 2000, which retained the features of the ePMP 1000, like the GPS synchronization. And in addition, we improved our ability to solve external interference by introducing a good filter, and also solved more of co-channel interference, which was not properly solved by the ePMP 1000. So in summary, ePMP 2000 came with two additional features: beamforming done by the smart antenna, and also the external interference, which was done by a very precise filter that was introduced. So having solved interference problem with ePMP 2000, it was then time to go on the speed lane. So that gave birth to ePMP 3000. And in terms of the IEEE standard, ePMP 3000 is an 11AC product, whereas ePMP 1000 and ePMP 2000, they are the 11N standard. On the roadmap, we have also scheduled a product for the 11AX, and maybe most of us may have been reading things. I believe you've been hearing some names like Wi-Fi 4, Wi-Fi 5, and now Wi-Fi 6. So these were the new names that was given in order to make it align with the naming that you have with the cellular technologies, where you have names like 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G. Each generation comes with an improved capability, especially in terms of capacity. So now with the ePMP in terms of capacity, ePMP 1000 and 2000 will give you up to 200 megabits per second per sector, whereas the ePMP 3000 would give you up to a gigabit per second per sector, depending on some factors that I'm going to tell you in the next slide. Okay, so these are the access points that captures the evolution of the ePMP portfolio. We started, like I mentioned before, we started with the ePMP 1000, and that product supported these frequency bands, 5 gigahertz, 2.4, 2.5, as well as 6.4, depending on the country of operation. And then we now moved on to ePMP 2000, which, in addition to all the features that we supported, we didn't have the 2.4 gigahertz version with ePMP 2000, but we now had introduced beamforming technology, which helps with co-channel interference. Okay, and then we moved on to ePMP 3000. So as you can see, ePMP 3000 has a lot of different models. ePMP 3000, this one is the original ePMP 3000, which we call the third generation of the ePMP portfolio. And it was the one that introduced the multi-user MIMO functionality. So in case you are wondering what is the difference between MIMO and multi-user MIMO? MIMO is a system that has 2 RF chains, or 2 TX and 2 RX, or transceivers, if you will. So, and the way the access point speaks with the subscriber module in a pure MIMO, or if you like, you can call it single user MIMO network, is that the access point speaks to one subscriber module at a time using one time slot, since this technology is a TDD based technology. So, but with multi-user MIMO, as the name implies, the access point can speak with more than one subscriber module using that same time slot that it was using with the single user MIMO network. So with multi-user MIMO and with also our ePMP 3000, the access points would be able to speak to 2 subscriber modules simultaneously using a single time slot. So this is one of the ways that the ePMP 3000 is able to multiply your capacity. So what is guaranteed is that when you migrate from ePMP 2000 to ePMP 3000, you are going to have at least ×2 of your throughput or your capacity per access point. And I have a slide to show you where I have captured how that happened. Okay, then lastly, we also have the ePMP 3000 micro pop. So these other ones are sector antennas. They work with sector antennas, but the micro pop is an omni access point. Okay, let's move to, so this next slide shows you the sector antennas. The previous one showed you the access points for all the ePMP product line, starting from ePMP 1000 to ePMP 3000. So this slide shows you the sector antennas. So what you have from the right on the screen, from the right-hand side of the screen, this was the sector antenna that was used with ePMP 1000. And then we improved the antenna design, making it a little bit smaller and sleeky. So this still worked with ePMP 1000 access points, and these are the APs that it can work with. It can work with the ePMP 1000, 2000, and 3000L. It's able to work with 3000L because the 3000L is a 2x2 MIMO radio. So this one is the smart antenna, which can work with both the ePMP 3000 and ePMP 1000, 2000, and 3000L as well. So let's look at the subscriber modules. Like I mentioned, ePMP is a product which supports 2 major IEEE standards, the 802.11n and the 802.11ac. So ePMP 1000 and 2000, like I mentioned, are 11n. They work with the 11n standard, whereas the 3000 is the one that is working with the 11ac standard. So all the subscriber modules you have here are the ones that works with ePMP 1000 and ePMP 2000. So as you can see, I've listed their antenna gains. Generally speaking, depending on your range, you would go for either the one with the least antenna gain or the one with the highest antenna gain. So the highest antenna gain radio for the 11N subscriber modules is the FOS 200 with a 25 dBi of integrated antenna gain, and the least is the FOS 130 or the integrated subscriber module, which is end of life as of today. So the least SM that we have is the FOS 130, and you use these ones for very short distances and places where you don't have much interference. But even those short distances as well, the FOS 200 would be recommended when you have much of interference. So maybe we could have a hands-on class to where I can explain in more details. Time will not permit us for me to go into much technical details on why you should use each of those SMs. But what I want you to take out from this session is you use the lists, these SMs with the least antenna gain, like the FOS 130 and the FOS 180 for distances, maybe up to 1 kilometers or 2 kilometers. And then if you want to support up to 5 kilometers on a point to multi-point, then you use the FOS 200. If you are doing, you can also use 2 of the SMs on a point to point. So you could use a pair of the FOS 200 on a point to point. You could use a pair of the FOS 190 on a point to point. In that case, it's going to support more distance for the throughput that you're planning to achieve. Okay, so this one is the subscriber modules for the ePMP 3000 or 11AC. So what we did for the FOS 300, for the 11AC subscriber modules or ePMP 3000, you can see that the subscriber modules for the ePMP 3000 are named FOS 300. So access point is 3000, subscriber module is 300. And what we did was to make the gain, antenna gain, obvious in the naming. So like for instance, you have FOS 300-25. That means that the FOS 300-25 has an antenna gain of 25 dBi. FOS 319 means that it has an antenna gain of 19 dBi. FOS 316, same thing, antenna gain of 16 dBi. Now, there are situations where the integrated antenna gain will not be sufficient for the type of range or design that you want to achieve. In those situations, you need the FOS 300 CSM, and CSM there stands for connectorized subscriber module. So you use the connectorized subscriber module whenever you need a gain that is higher than 25 dBi. And what are those situations that would warrant you to use a gain of more than 25 dBi? One would be that you need to support a longer distance for the capacity that you're planning, because the amount of capacity that you're planning also depends on how long the range for the link is going to be. Generally speaking, shorter range distances would give you more capacity because you will achieve a higher modulation, whereas longer ranges will generally give you a lower capacity. So that's one use for the connectorized subscriber module. Another use is you have so much of interference in a particular site where the FOS 325 could not help you. So in that case, you need you need more gain. And to do that, you need to get the connectorized subscriber module and then attach a higher antenna gain to it, maybe like a 30 dBi antenna or a 34 dBi antenna. And the good news is you are able to model the performance using our free link budgeting tool called the Link Planner. It's freely available for you to download. Okay, so now we've been talking about ePMP 3000. What's this ePMP 3000? In a nutshell, the ePMP 3000 is our third generation of access points within our ePMP portfolio. Like I've mentioned, we have evolved the ePMP access points from 1000 to 2000 to 3000. In terms of standard, 1000 and 2000 are the 11N standard, whereas the 3000 represents the 11AC. And as I'm still going to show you a lot of features that we have with the PMP 3000. But for now, note that the PMP 3000 has 2 radios within the box. So one of the radio is dedicated for data communication, whereas the other radio is a dedicated spectrum analyzer. So if you had any of you that are attending today's session, if you have already deployed the PMP 1000 and 2000, you will know that whenever you need to conduct a spectrum analysis, you need to bring down the link because you have only one radio. But now we've got a dedicated spectrum analyzer which does not interfere with the data part. So anytime you need to do your spectrum analysis, all you need to do is to enable the spectrum analyzer to run your spectrum, do your spectrum analysis, and then you disable it again. So why are we asking you to migrate to ePMP 3000? That's because you are in total migrating from ePMP 1000 or 2000 to ePMP 3000 will give you up to 5 times the performance that you were getting before. And it does that using 3 different methods. One of them is the multi-user MIMO. The other one is wider channels. The other one is higher modulation. And then we are still retaining our uplink beamforming capability and also our intelligent filtering, which we also call the dynamic filtering of noise. And we still maintain our synchronization that helps you to solve self-interference. So all these things and as you know, almost all our solutions, they guarantee you a lower total cost of ownership, because once you deploy it, they work. And that's the feedback I get from the field. A lot of people that we have introduced the ePMP and especially the ePMP 3000 to, the feedback that we get is that even though your product is a little bit more expensive than the cheapest one that we know within the industry, that we have not visited this site for the past 6 months or even 1 year. And I think that is what you want as a WISP, because you don't want to be spending so much on operational costs. So when you spend so much on operational costs for something that you felt was cheap, then at the long run, it's no longer cheap. It's more expensive. So that's why our solution always guarantees you a lower total cost of ownership. Okay, so this slide, I put this slide in order just to capture in summary all the features of the ePMP 3000. So like we've mentioned before, it's a multi-user MIMO system. We have retained our GPS sync, which allows you to reuse your frequency. As you know, the 5 gigahertz spectrum is very congested, and especially if anybody that is attending today has bought a license from NCC on the 5 gigahertz spectrum, they assign slices of bandwidth of 30 megahertz and 25 megahertz for nationwide deployment. So with those type of bandwidth assignments, you must reuse your frequency. Without GPS synchronization, you cannot do that because there will be so much of interference within your access points or sectors. So, and also to solve external interference, which is interference from co-located neighbors on your towers, we also have our uplink beam steering done by the device we call the smart antenna. 4x4 multi-user MIMO helps to double your capacity, increase modulation from 64 QAM to 256 QAM, as well as 80 megahertz channel support from 40 megahertz that was supported by 11N and also ePMP 2000. And because of that, you have more capacity to deliver to customers, and you can add more subscribers to your access point. Okay, so this slide also summarizes, gives you a graphical representation of what I've explained before on how you are able to multiply your throughput up to 5 times. So the most likely cause of your capacity increase will come from the multi-user MIMO, because the access point is capable of communicating with 2 subscriber modules simultaneously, as opposed to 1 subscriber module that the ePMP 2000 and 1000 communicates with. And most of our competitors also have not implemented multi-user MIMO. So they only promise higher capacities from the increased channel size, and of which most of the time may not be usable, because the 5 gigahertz, especially here in Nigeria and in Lagos, is so congested. You have so much of interference. Even on 20 megahertz, sometimes it's difficult to get, not to talk of to get 40 megahertz or even 80 megahertz. So that's why we are saying that the most likely feature that is going to help in multiplying your capacity would be the multi-user MIMO feature. So, but apart from that, you can also multiply your capacity up to times 2.7 times your capacity if you combine multi-user MIMO with the higher modulation that the ePMP 3000 supports, from 64 QAM to 256 QAM. Then lastly, which is the least likely feature that will help to increase or multiply your capacity, is the increase in channel size from 40 megahertz to 80 megahertz. Okay, so because the channel size has doubled now, so all these things combined would be able to give you up to 5 times your throughput that you were getting on ePMP 2000. And if you still remember the slide that I showed, the introductory slide of the evolution, I mentioned that the maximum capacity for ePMP 1000 and 2000 was 200 megabits per second, whereas ePMP 3000 is able to give you up to 1 gig. So you can see that if you do the simple math there, that is times 5 of your throughput. Okay, now in addition, for people that already have the ePMP 2000 or ePMP 1000 in their network, they might be wondering, how are we going to support our subscriber modules if we migrate to ePMP 2000? If we migrate to ePMP 3000. So we always have you in mind whenever we are doing our design, and whenever we are manufacturing a new solution. So we had compatibility in mind. So in case you already had an ePMP 2000 network, so what you have here, you have an ePMP 2000 access point on your tower, and you have your 11 NSMs, like the first 180 and the first 200. All you have to do is to upgrade your software to our 4.x version, because the legacy software for the 11 NSMs is the 3.x. So once you have upgraded every device on your network to 4.x, and also the ePMP 2000, they will be speaking to ePMP 2000, and then you swap the ePMP 2000 to ePMP 3000, and that's it. You don't have to decommission your first 180 or your first 200. So we have backwards compatibility and also forward compatibility. So forward compatibility is where the ePMP the first 300 is able to also communicate with an ePMP 2000 access point. All right, so this is a snapshot of the utilization, the capacity that we were able to get on a 20 megahertz bandwidth or channel using the ePMP 3000. And we have 4 subscriber modules that are connected. So you can see that the combined capacity that we got, the aggregate, is on a 20 megahertz is 219 Mbps. If you remember, I've mentioned that the ePMP 2000 and 1000 gives you a maximum capacity of 200 plus Mbps. and that would be when you configure a 40 megahertz channel. But now with a 20 megahertz channel, which is half of the capacity, normally you were supposed to get 100, but now with ePMP 3000, we are able to get double that capacity. Okay, so like if you also remember, I mentioned that the most likely cause of the doubling or increasing throughput would be because of multi-user MIMO. So here, multi-user MIMO is in effect. You can see that the two SMs, we have two SMs that are communicating with the access point simultaneously, and those two SMs have generated a combined traffic of 200 Mbps. The green graph here shows that multi-user MIMO has been in effect on the download. Okay, and what you are seeing here, the antenna, is the smart antenna that does beamforming. So how the beamforming works is to reduce, narrow the beam from your traditional 90-degree sector to a smaller angle that would make it to run away from the source of the interference and increase your link budget. All right, so this one, I just put it here as a reference for you, so just as a guide. When like I mentioned, we have all these ePMP subscriber modules, and you might be wondering, when should I use which? So just as a general guide, you use the FOSS 130, the ones with the smaller antenna gains, you use them for the shortest distances. So like I recommend up to 1 kilometer on the point to multi-point network. And then the connectorized subscriber module one, you use it for you use it in two cases. When the first case where
Livingston, you are breaking up a little bit. Livingston, you're breaking up a little bit.
And the second case when you have very high interference.
Livingston, can you hear me? You're just breaking up a little bit.
200 or 325.
Livingston, can you hear me? You're breaking up a little bit, just to let you know. Try to say something again.
Just to wrap, finalize cost to my screen is hanging.
Try to say something now.
A minute. Okay. But you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now it's okay.
Okay. So let me share my screen once more.
Yeah, I think now it's okay. Go back.
Okay, so let me share my screen once more. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes. Well, now I'm seeing just you are on the webinar page. So open up again the presentation.
The presentation, okay.
And you were just at the slide, the one after the ePMP SMS antenna specifications, the one with the distance.
Okay.
I think was, or I don't know the number of the slide, but was you were
I know that.
Just move to the next one. Yeah, the one after this. Yeah.
This one, right?
Correct.
Okay, apologies for that break. I had a change in connection, that's why. All right, so let's quickly look at the difference between ePMP 2000 and ePMP 3000, because these are the basic questions that your managers are going to be asking. Why are you saying that we should migrate to ePMP 3000? Do you have any document that shows that? So this slide captures most of your queries. So in terms of standard, the ePMP 2000 is an 11N standard, whereas the ePMP 3000 is an 11AC product. In terms of modulation, so the IEEE standard they have developed, they specified that you should number the modulation in a modulation and coding scheme called MCS, numbered from 0 to 15 for 11N or ePMP 2000, and the numbering is 0 to 9 for ePMP 3000. So in terms of throughput, you are able to achieve up to 200 for ePMP 2000, whereas you are able to achieve up to 1.2 gigabits per second for ePMP 3000. But there is a condition for you to achieve that. That is when you have increased your channel size from 40 to 80, and you have multi-user MIMO in place, and your link is short enough for you to achieve the highest modulation, which is 256 QAM. So you can see the channel bandwidth support. We have more granular channel support for on ePMP 2000, 5, 10, 20, 40, whereas ePMP 3000, you have 10, 20, 40, and 80. There is no 5 megahertz channel support on ePMP 3000. The maximum modulation supported is 64 QAM and for ePMP 2000 and 256 QAM for ePMP 3000. Antenna gain 17, the same. Like I mentioned, you don't require any Java clients to run the spectrum analysis. All you need to do, just log into ePMP 3000, enable the spectrum analyzer, do your analysis, disable it when you are done. We also added a 3 dB gain on the ePMP 3000 by increasing the maximum transmit power to 33 dBm. Beamforming on 3000 is done both on uplink and downlink, whereas for ePMP 2000, we were only doing the beamforming on the uplink using the smart antenna. MIMO support for 2000 is 2x2 and is 4x4 multi-user MIMO on 3000. Then in terms of the gigabit interface, for RJ45, we have similar numbers, one RJ45 gigabit ports on both 2000 and 3000. But in addition, on the 3000, we have an SFP port, which you can use to connect your longer cable runs that are longer than the specified 100 meters for Ethernet. We also have a wider frequency range on the ePMP 3000. So ePMP 3000 comes with a lot of features that would help you improve your network performance, not only in terms of capacity, but also in terms of other metrics. Okay, so that is it for my presentation. I'll be wrapping up with this slide that shows you what you need, the components that you need when you want to order the ePMP 3000. We always recommend that you use a gigabit surge suppressor to ground your connections. I mean, I received some calls where some people have lightning has fried the equipment because they did not do the right protection. So get the surge suppressor and make sure it's connected to a good ground, which is also connected to a lightning arrestor. Okay, and if you need more help, Rachel and I are always here to help you to do your design and also help you to do trainings for you, for both yourself and your team. That's it from my side. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll go over to the Q&A session now.
So just to wrap up, I'm sending to all the attendees the Rachel's contact details. Anyway,
Okay.
Rachel will be sending to everybody, all the people that registered in the slide from these presentations and some additional information. And we are also running a newsletter campaign, roughly each 2 weeks, when Rachel is sending out some information about our product lines, going from Wi-Fi products, the switching line, the cnMatrix, and then of course ePMP and the WISP market. So we will be in touch. I don't know if you have any questions, feel free to type something in the chat panel. Otherwise, we will wrap up and we will be in touch with the slide of this presentation. So let's see if we. Okay. Well, I just shared the Rachel's contact details.
Okay.
We have a question from somebody's raising up the hand. I will unmute this person. Okay.
So.
Well, I don't know if I can pronounce this name, but it's.
Let me help you. It's cnMaestro. cnMaestro, yeah. You can go ahead and speak now.
Yes, I want to ask some questions. First, are we going to get this slide?
The answer is yes.
Okay. And the comment I want to make is that I think this program should be frequent so that we get updated with what is happening, and so that some of us will be able to advise our clients better.
That's noted, and we've been doing this type of programs, but I think Leo is now coming up with a more coordinated one. Myself and Unit, we've been speaking with some selected partners, but with Leo, we are going to be having more of these type of sessions.
Okay.
Yes, we will try to organize it once per month if it's possible, but we will be in touch with more activities. And for sure, you're going to receive a follow-up email, thank you email with all the presentations, and then you know, any requests you have, you can reach out to us and to Rachel as first point of contact point.
The question I have another question, please.
Okay,
sure.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Yes, I want to believe from this point that we are into channel business, and it will not be there. It will not be easy for people to be encourage our client to buy their products from from outside the channel. Am I right?
Leo, I would like you to take that one.
Yes, well, Cambium Networks is a channel company, so whoever will be in the channel program will have access to different informations. Okay, and all our system is different than other brands, so everything is going through the distribution channel. So it's giving you a unique perspective, and also at some point it's going to be up to you to get more involved, of course, but we are giving you the chance, you know, to receive full information from our end, and also to increase your margin, depending, of course, on how much you will be working with us. But the idea of the channel of a channel company is to work together, so step by step to grow together as a company. And all our partners, they are acceding to better discounts, some protection on their deals. So definitely we are a channel company.
Okay.
Anything else? Any other question?
Or maybe cnMaestro, are you guys currently doing anything on? Are you currently deploying Cambium solutions?
I think you should be able to know. We deployed last year by September last year in Abuja.
Okay.
As I don't know whether you still recollect.
Did you attend the workshop we did then?
Then, you mean then?
Yes, in Abuja.
No. We are in Lagos, but our client is out there in Abuja.
Okay.
Yes, we weren't aware of it, and at least we would have been able to listen. We would have been able to be there to advise our client better. We're not.
Okay, so just like my colleague have said, you have Rachel as your first point of contact, and if she's not able to, if she needs more info, she might escalate to me. So you have all the support that you need.
Okay.
Yeah, think about Rachel. You can reach out to her for anything, and of course, if she's going to need some technical support or sales support, she will be escalating to Yonut or Livingston. And the idea, of course, is to support all our partners. So we are not gonna miss this. No worries.
Okay.
Okay, Leo, it looks like we don't have any further questions.
Okay, then I don't know if Yonut would like to say something to say goodbye. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up this session. And thanks a lot to everybody for joining. This was the first webinar that we decided to carry out this quarter, and we are looking forward to have more of these events. And we will be in touch with all of you, and looking forward to do some business together.